the only way to start your day.
Land of diamonds. Diamond is used to actually fund education in the country. You know, a very interesting subject for us this morning. But remember, the Setswana people from the country are the majority speaking in the country. And as we talk about that, over 70% of the land is a desert in Botswana. But let's go to the proverb. Famine hides under the granary. Famine hides under the granary. How would you interpret that?
Well, interesting. But my thought about that Botswana saying is that probably we have resources that we don't see. So many times we are hungry, yet we have food just around us. We are poor, but we have resources just around us, but we don't see.
True.
That's a beautiful way of looking at
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Maybe the answer to the solution, rather the answer to the problem is right under our noses.
Yes.
Literally. And
if
we
just
don't
dig
know.
a little bit deeper, we'll just find the solutions with us, yeah.
For sure. So, Prof. Ngumi, even as we start this and we're looking at the learners who are in school today will eventually come to university. They will go to institutions of higher learning. The hope is that the placement services they said that they want to scrap the C entry level towards university, and they want to allow for a larger band of folks to then get into university. When we look at CB, it's supposed to be an all-encompassing system of education whereby you look at the abilities and skills of a learner as you then send them off to pathways and then get them in to study what their career path choices will be. If you gave an assessment of the education system so far, is it delivering what then universities and higher and institutions of higher learning will accept in the future?
Well, we are all learning. The universities are also learning. Right now, we are studying what is happening in senior school because the graduates from senior school will be our catchment. And therefore, we are trying our very best to get ready for them, but at the same time, trying to profile them to understand the kind of learner we shall have in 2029. That said, the education system, we cannot be able to say that it is either delivering or not delivering at this point in time. It will have to be a study that we shall do as the students continue to progress. Right now, the first CBC students are in grade 10. We are expecting that in 2029, they will come to the university. That is the time we will be able to see the kind of students that we have. But we are trying to understand them from the pathways that they are going through in a senior school, and we are trying to get ready for them. So a little bit early for us to be able to judge whether they are the kind of students that probably we will expect or we have been expecting. Of course, like every other system, we expect a little bit of teething problems, but we will handle them.
One would ask the question then, if you look at CBE, one of the challenges that has been there is preparation in terms of teacher retooling, infrastructure in place to ensure that this new curriculum has everything to ensure that you have the best graduating students. Then one would ask the question, with almost 7 years now, right? 7 years of the same at grade 10. Is the university preparing to accept these students in terms of retooling? Because it's a different curriculum. Are we looking at different ways on how we will accept these children? Are we preparing our teachers to accept them? Are we putting up infrastructure that will enable these kids to transition peacefully and successfully? Or is it a question of wait and see?
Well, let me speak of what I know. because I cannot speak for all universities.
Yes.
We have a forum called the Education Deans Forum. And this forum is, the membership are the deans of schools of education across the country, both private and public universities. Now, for the last, let's say, 2 years, we have been coming up with strategies on how to prepare our universities to onboard CBE students. And therefore, we have undergone a number of trainings, and we have the mandate to prepare our individual universities for CBE. Now, at Zitech University, where I am Dean of School of Education, we have a 3-year plan on how to onboard the university to CBE. That is this year, next year, and 2028. So that by 2029, when we are getting the first batch of students, we will be ready for CBE. So our preparedness involves majorly 3 things. One is a training of our staff, our academic staff mainly, to be able to understand the CBE pedagogy, to understand the CBE education system. And number 2, to review our curricula, because the curricula has to move from 4-year to 3-year. So part of what we are doing now is to understand what skills and the knowledge will the students have by the time they are leaving grade 12, so that we review the curriculum to a 3-year, and it will be a curriculum that will benefit the students. We will not take them back in terms of the knowledge that they have gained, but we will move them forward. And then that thing is, of course, resources. You realize that one of the major challenges that schools have faced, both primary, that is primary school, junior secondary school, and senior secondary school, has been the resources. Because CBE is a resource-intensive curriculum. And therefore, we need to get very, very, very much prepared at the university level to ensure that we offer good CBE curriculum. We will need to have a lot of resources. You realize that the classes are supposed to be smaller. You realize that there are a lot of practical lessons that will require resources, and therefore we have to get ready with all that. And also, the use of technology is also intensive in CBE, and we will also have to get ready for that. So those are the 3 main things that as Zitech University we are doing, and I believe that even other universities are also on the same path.
What kind of learner is being sought by institutions of higher learning into the future? When we talk about them going through the system and the first grade 10s then be available to the higher education levels in 2029, what kind of learner is being sought after?
I must say this, that universities all over the world train intellectuals. We are not going to change that attitude by the change of the curriculum. So we are still looking at a person who will become an intellectual at the university level. We understand that they will have undergone through a different curriculum than the one that we have been used to. But nonetheless, we will still want to train a thinker. We will still want to train an innovator. We will still want to train an intellectual whom we can nurture to be able to advance education, to be able to advance research, to be able to advance technology, to be able to advance entrepreneurship, and all aspects of a wholesome intellectual. The universities will not change that attitude. So we are looking at a student who can also be able to study on his own, with minimal guidance, somebody who can be able to do research, somebody who can be able to write, somebody who can be able to think. Basically, that's it.
Okay. At this point, of course, joining us in the room as well is our other guest who's in the hot seat this morning. Dr. Edward Obuya is an educational expert, joins us as well. Thank you for being here in the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you for joining us. We're having this conversation and we're looking into whether our students who are now in grade 10 are kind of hobbling along. And I feel this particular batch of students seem to have been through the fire. They were the guinea pigs of this education system. And when they joined at grade 3, we got them to grade 6. They got into grade 7, didn't have books for 2 terms. And now we've taken them into grade 10, where there's a lot of confusion in terms of pathways and, I don't know, bands of what. And now we're into grade 10, 2 weeks away from midterms, and we still don't have books. They've been through this situation already, and I think we've had numerous conversations around whether, we're ready for this curriculum, and I think the answer is quite obvious. But with what we have, what can we do? At the risk of sounding resigned to a poor condition, what can we do?
Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm glad. I must say I'm remorseful because of the traffic jam along the Ngong Road. But all in all, I'm here and I'm glad. Probably I can take you through the history of CBE. Actually, it was CBC. There was a task force that was formed by the late President Kibaki to look into how best the curriculum can be restructured so that it matches the constitution of Kenya, and that was done in 2012. A lot has happened. In 2017 there was the piloting of this system that started for the first time, and there were some schools that were identified to be the pilot schools. We are in a precarious, in my view, position in terms of implementation of CBE. I concur with what Prof said, that there's a lot of retooling that has to be done so that, this system can effectively be implemented. It saddens us as, citizens and probably education experts to see a scenario where we are in the the third week with the grade 10 students, and no learning materials, no textbooks have been, issued to schools. I was dismayed yesterday to hear that there are schools that have completely not received any textbook. And it is really, really a dismaying situation. They are challenges, but at a given point, I also blame our lawmakers. Because in my honest view, they ought to have come with the legislation that will streamline the operationalization of this system. So much that they talk about infrastructural, implementation. They talk about how best can we have, the textbook being in place, even before grade 10 students are admitted. So this is something that has taken 9 years. And it saddens that after 9 years, you are still in this kind of position.
It's a matter that we discuss here every morning in terms of planning, because by the time we were rolling out CBE, we knew very well that these students would end up all the way to university. True. That would have meant by the time we are launching CBE, we would have planned for each student from grade 3 all the way to university and have that plan clearly put down. But we are grappling and fumbling with these curriculum in such a way that appears we are not ready. We were never prepared. It's just something that came up. We had to implement it. We will fix it as we go. But that notwithstanding, then, question is, with where we find ourselves, what's the quality of student that we will be giving to the Republic after the fact? Because if today is the third week and students have not been taught in school, how will that affect the overall performance once professor gets these students in campus?
In fact, that is any educational expert exercising his or her mind fairly would ask the same question, that we are tumbling with the destiny, the future of students. And this is really, really very, very, very unbecoming. So it is a worry that all, stakeholders in educational system are concerned about, that we are almost breaking to midterm. And I can tell you for real, I saw a circular that was issued by the ministry that talks about the subjects that have to be undertaken by these students. And let me give an example of, construction, building and construction as a learning area. Absolutely, teachers are tumbling into which now they're forced to use the curriculum design in soft copy form to tumble and even Google what to tell the students, as opposed to what the curriculum design demands. So it is a very sorrow situation. I'm saddened. What are the the end products that you are going to give the professors at the higher level of education? So I still come back to the situation, the issue I talked about, legislation. For me, 9 years along the line, forgive me to say that Ambassador Amina Mohammed once said, as a country, we were not ready by then to hurriedly implement the CBE. And I think now, the aftermath that Amina said around 7 or 8 years back.
2018.
Yes, that is now what is being manifested in the current situation.
Prof, building and construction, we're doing it on paper.
Not on paper.
We're doing it on, we are Googling. You know what I mean? And here we are, universities are preparing. You are coming up with facilities to accommodate these students who come. Yet, if I come to your institution and I want to do building and construction, you'd assume that I know how to koroga, I know how to come up with a mortar, I know the difference between a ballast and sand and all these things. But how are you then receiving a student who has no idea what this means, yet you're supposed to build up on what they've already learned? Are you scared that we'll be getting students who are not ready for campus, ready for life?
Okay, we are not scared to start with, but of course we are concerned. We are concerned because we are not admitting students to universities that we cannot guarantee that when they graduate, when we eventually give them the degrees and diplomas, they will be ready for the market. And therefore, it is upon us as universities, and this is what we are doing now, to identify what gaps are going to be there in the students that we are going to admit. And they see work out a way how we are going to bridge that gap. When we bridge that gap, then we will train the students, and by the time they leave the universities, they will be properly trained and educated. But it is an uphill task.
Can universities work with a student without proper foundation?
Difficult. That's why I have said we will have to identify the gaps, find a way in which we are going to bridge the gap. But it is not an easy thing. It is going to be a difficult thing. And I think also for the sake of the country, because this is our country, these are our children that we are talking about, it is important for all sectors of education to talk with each other. The primary, the secondary school, the junior secondary school, senior secondary school, and the universities, and the other tertiary institutions. There is a need for us to sit together and be able to talk with one another and be able to see where are the failures, where are the weaknesses, where are the deficits, and how can we address them. But for sure, these first groups of students who will come to the universities will be a great challenge.
The thing is that we seem to be looking at a problem, we caught the problem, we romanticize the problem, and then marry the problem and have children. Because is it possible that we can be talking about the same thing, that is wrong until it multiplies and we keep still looking at it and say, well, maybe we can talk and then it will get better tomorrow. No, there's something fundamentally wrong that we are not addressing. It is that same fundamental thing that stops entire ministry that is the vanguard of this system to be printing books in February. They are the ones who set the calendar. We're printing books in February. We don't send capitation on time. And by some magical, mystical thing, we expect that we are going to send now these learners to university and we'll snap our fingers and shake our heads and they will adapt into a system and everything will be wonderful. No. Why can't we hit the nail on the head and talk about the actual problems, where they exist, and what is needed to solve them? People have sat. People sit every day. For crying out loud, there was a presidential working party on education reforms that went around the country. They identified the problems. And then we're not able to fix the issue. So, are the people at the helm the ones who need to go? Prof. Buya, what needs to happen here? Because we are courting an issue, and a courtship period is when you tell the things so many nice things, you tell them how beautiful they look, and you tell them if they have problems, everything's going to be okay. It's not, unless something drastic is done. I'm sorry to be the Debbie Downer, but it is not going to get better. It is going to get worse. And we are going to deliver almost 1 million grade 10s in 3 years into a system whereby they're going to have the short end of the stick. Perhaps we just need to call it for what it is. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. True. We are still seeing a situation whereby the same kids who in grade 3 are having the same problem 7 years later. And we are saying that it's going to get better. It's not. Why can't we just hit the nail on the head and say that we have a problem and fix it? Why?
I think we raised our concerns. I personally, as an individual, as an education expert, I wrote to the Presidential Working Party on education reforms, and I registered my displeasure in terms of even the learning areas, the subject that we were doing. And this is, I think, one of my input is what brought about the rationalization of the learning areas. We had students who, in grade 7, for example, they are doing things that were meant to be done by Form 2s. And we said, for example, geography. They were talking about the physical geography, which is done in Form 2. Ordinarily, there's a gap between grade 6 to grade 8, and then they are being subjected to do things that are meant to be done in grade 9. And I'm happy the KCD listened and there was some revision in terms of the learning areas. But indeed, as you say, we are in a state of quagmire. We're in a state that we need to sit down and review the system that we are, having. This is a generation when not really carefully addressed, is a generation we are losing. In terms of, in the next, I would say 3 years, they'll be at the university. Look at the half-baked students we are going to, release to the public. The vision of CBE is tailored towards Vision 2030. And that is purely being industrialized. Tell me, how will we achieve this without even the learning materials, without inadequacy in terms of teachers? I read the Usawa report that was given a few days ago that was talking about a deficit of 129 teachers in junior school alone.
The same report, I'm sorry, if I can just, since it's raining, let's now bring in hailstones and some more thunder. The same report talked about this thing that we're saying is going to get better and we'll deal with it in the future. The same Usawa Agenda report told us that 30% only is the amount of comprehension and literacy that we are delivering at the end of
Correct.
the
Yes.
Only 30% of grade 6 learners can read and write.
True.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on.
True. And it went ahead to say that the current grade 8s are not able to tackle an assessment that is meant for grade 3.
Grade 3, yes.
Which scenario are we in? Now, just to add, the pioneers, I was one of the guys who was very firm and was very happy when the CBE was introduced, the CBC. I thought probably this will relieve us from all the examination-oriented, 844 system, which I'm a product of. But again, can you recall when I can't remember the very cabinet minister who said 10% of the national schools or the boarding schools are going to accommodate the scholars? I don't know whether you can remember.
Yes.
So that Magoha, exactly. So that this will give rise to equality. What has happened now?
There's no
Categorization.
School is offering 10% chances to the scholars. So these things are in shelved in terms of policy. Implementation is a problem.
I mean,
Yes.
it's 7 years of the same problems every other time. And one asks the question, grade 3 problem, grade 4 problem, grade
True.
6 problem. And we have assessments throughout.
True.
And if you look at the report from Usawa Agenda, that is a private entity that is telling the government of Kenya, the people of Kenya, this is the situation, this is the quality of students that we have in schools today. How long does it take for a problem to be fixed? Because if grade 3, 4, 5, 6, there was a problem, must we go through the entire education system all the way to after campus for us to say, finally, because we've gone through the system, the guinea pigs, sorry to use that word, the guinea pigs that we have showed us the way, then we can start fixing it. Because at the tail end, we have 1 million Kenyans that we have released into the market who cannot stand for themselves, who cannot deliver. Because I keep insisting, if the foundation is shaky, even the Bible tells us, if you build your house on sand, when water comes, your house will be washed away. How do we then... You have a difficult job, Professor, I'm sorry. Because if the foundation is shaky, you will work your magic. But I can guarantee you at the end of the day, there will always be that gap that has existed. You say that we need to talk together. Are we talking together as we speak, or is everyone as well just operating in silos?
Unfortunately, we are not talking.
Hey.
And unfortunately, like you have said, we have a bunch of guinea pigs who are actually our children. And this is a very unfortunate situation. But we must place the blame, if we must, where it actually should be. And I must say that the government and the Ministry of Education cannot run away from responsibility of where we find ourselves in. We knew that CBC was a good system. We also knew that CBC was resource intensive, but we did not get ourselves ready for it, as we should. And therefore, I can only say that the Ministry of Education and government need to put the act together. Otherwise, we are going to have a country of ill-educated people. And you can imagine when we produce graduates who are not competent, yet we are saying they have gone through a competency-based curriculum, but they are not competent. What are we staring at? We are staring at doctors who can't treat people. We are looking at engineers who can't build anything lasting. We are looking at teachers who cannot teach competently in class. And therefore, we are staring at a bleak future for our country. And therefore, I am saying the government needs to come back to its senses and see how we can be able to rescue our education system. But we recognize that at the moment, we are nowhere near our objective.
Okay. When we obviously look at the inherent problems that are there, that we entered into a system for which there was not adequate preparedness or the proper allocation of resources. And when we say resources, we're not just talking about money, but that how have we tooled and equipped the teachers? If we're going to go to a pathway of STEM, for example, and you have a 37% deficit in terms of science teachers in the country, then we've got a problem. And that if nobody's calling that out at that point and saying, okay, guys, we're going to offer STEM, for which the first letter of STEM is science, and you don't have adequate teachers around the country, then obviously you're staring down down a rabbit hole. There's a problem here. But it seems so obvious to everybody except the people who are running this thing. Why would that be the case? That you can't see the problem and you say, okay, let us fix this. Because if education is supposed to be cyclical with the industrialization of a nation, and you cannot see that the entry point has an issue that will affect your output, then I don't know what we're doing.
True.
We're not just going in the wrong direction, we're on the wrong project completely. So then, whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it to reroute this train?
I think we need to really re-evaluate where did the rain start beating us. For me, that is the direction I'll pick it up from. And I'm happy you pointed out the issue of retooling. Personally, I've always had an issue with retooling. We are subjecting our students, our learners, to facilitators who are not properly retooled. Can you imagine, like now the senior school teachers being retooled for 1 week in a system that is so vibrant, in a system that the theories that underpins it are so detailed that would require at most a year or so. And you subject teachers to 2 weeks or a week training. So I think we start the problem. We have, the facilitators, or I would say the teachers in the primary section who are still using the 844 system or the pedagogical delivery of teaching, who will do the lecture and what method, as opposed to the dictates of the CBE that requires the role of a teacher is to facilitate the learning process. This is not being done. I do not blame the teachers. I blame the training the retooling that underwent. And they were not all the teachers who are retrained. They selected a few, took to the training session or the workshop for a week or so, and branded them to be the TOT. Those who are going to train those who are there, if they themselves are not adequately knowledgeable, how would they then go to train their colleagues on the best methods of, teaching or guiding in CBE implementation? So for me, that is one area that we are failing. 2, this system, in my view, is ignoring students with learning disability. Research shows that 17% of the Kenyan population are full of... I also read the SAWA report that was talking about 17% of students or learners or kids in Kenya are living with disability. How best are we taking care of them? Nairobi lives with, I think, 46%, followed by Western. When the cabinet secretary was giving us the report in terms of a transition to the senior school, at no point did he mention about the transition of students with learning disability. We do not know where they are as we talk, where they went to, what is the pathway in terms of what do they... Of course, there's foundation exams and then intermediate and the pre-technical for those who did year 9. Where are they? Which schools are accommodating such students with disability? There's a gap. And as Prof said, in my view, we need to sit down and see how best we can, try to close the gaps that we have. Yeah.
Prof, would you reckon there is, or lack of it, political goodwill in implementing education? Because we will sit and say, the cabinet secretary is not performing, the PS is incompetent. But one would ask the question then, but they are hired by someone. There's someone who signed their contract and gave them the job. It cannot be that the person who sits in the same cabinet as the president does not communicate this to the boss. Can't be that the president does not know what is happening in the country, which then asks the question, is there political goodwill to deal with the problem in education as we see it today once and for all? Because there was Presidential Working Party. A lot of questions were raised with regard to the report that was given by the Presidential Working Party. And we see nothing really happened. The cabinet secretary went quiet on it. Today we see the challenges that do exist. And the political class, I'm sorry to say, is quiet. Members of parliament are speaking today, but they can do much more than just condemn. Is there political goodwill?
I think, in my opinion, there is no proper political goodwill, because if there was, we would not be in this problem. We have been talking about CBC for almost 10 years now, and Parliament has not made proper laws to govern implementation of CBC. In fact, I see like our Parliament shies away from even talking about CBC, yet they are the lawmakers. They are the ones who are supposed to guide the executive by making proper laws on the implementation of CBC. With regard to the executive, that is the Ministry of Education, I believe that they should be able to lobby to Parliament to be allocated more resources to be able to retool teachers, to be able to equip schools, to be able to have what we would call a proper number of number of teachers in the schools. But what we see now, schools don't have enough teachers. Boards of management are being asked to employ teachers to bridge the deficit. Mm-hmm. We are still seeing capitation to schools, many times late,
always late,
many times not enough, and so on and so forth. So I think the ministry has really some work to do if we are going to succeed. We need also, why are we still having capitation calculated the same way as we were calculating when we were having 844, yet we are having a more capital intensive education system? Parliament should have gone back to the drawing board to see, can we afford this system? And if we can afford it, then these are the resources that we are providing as Parliament when they are making the budget to this education system, because we are looking at the future of our children.
Okay, so we have students who are in grade 10 at the moment. They're getting into midterms, and not to forget, we focus on the grade 10 because this is the first transition that has gone into senior secondary school in this system. But there are 9 other grades before them, and from next year there will be another year ahead of the grade 10s, and there will be a grade 12 in 2028, right? This is the reality of what we are looking at today. And if the grade 10 was so difficult to get through, and let's be truthful, that some of these students went hobnobbing through this process. Okay, what's available in this particular school? Okay, you just take it. And if down the road we need to change, we'll change. And we basically took what we could get just so that we can say, and the ministry actually, in true form, by the week after the 12th said, yes, there are students in school. So, Bora Mefika. That's what we've got to. Is it Elimu Bora Elimu?
Is it Elimu
Bora or Bora? And now that's where we were. At least they've gotten into school. Yes. Learning is going. Somebody's teaching something. Okay, fantastic.
97% transition.
Is it possible to operate differently? They were saying we're going down the mountain. Yeah. Whether you get down the mountain with one shoe, without a shirt, with your hair loss, so long as we've gotten down the mountain, can we expect, and it sounds like almost an obvious answer, but can we expect the results that people have been faffing about which country they want to go to in the future, if this is the building block that we're using to build the structure? And that's for both of you.
Okay. Obviously, for a country to move from one level of development to another, education and health are most important. And therefore, for us as Kenya, if we are not getting it right in education, we will not transit to another level. Actually, we are at risk of regressing to a lower level. And therefore, as a country, we must really think about how are we going to get it right in education. We are not going to have development if we don't have good engineers. We are not going. We don't have good teachers. We don't have good health practitioners. We don't have good lawyers, and of course, then as a country, we must also think the kind of leaders we elect into parliament, into our county governments, and so on. Are they leaders who are really progressive, or are they people who are just looking for a position to look important or to feel important? As a country, I believe that if we are going to move to another level, then we must have the right leadership, we must have right thinking, and we must take care of our generations that are to come.
I would add by saying that the situation is there, but I still believe we can correct it. I call upon the leaders that we elected. Let us sit down and reevaluate the system that we are in. This is a serious problem for real. And it is not really fair to waste a generation that, in my view, are very crucial. We have the 3 pathways as dictated by the CBE. The STEM, the social science, the art and sports. And it was very clear in the government manifesto that we'll have 60% go the STEM way. As I think my sister here said, even before the introduction and the implementation of the CBE, we had a serious issue with the science teachers. Now that the number has even increased to 60%, what are we doing so that we get such teachers? In my honest view, TSC ought to have worked with the university to ensure that the number of teachers trained in sciences increased in preparation for the grade 9 intake, which was not the case. Majority of the teachers you all know are the social science teachers, and they're only taking 25% of the students. So which generation are we preparing? I think, for me, I feel that our leaders, Minister of Education officials, the Teacher Service Commission, the KICD, educational experts, lecturers from the universities in education department, we need to sit down and see how best can we correct this anomaly. And for me, that is the way I think we need to go. Because now the CBE system is operating on what I would call an executive order. There's no session paper that, streamlines how it will be implemented and being operationalized. So these are things that we need to come down and work on so that we correct. Unless we do that, we will keep on pushing a generation. And the problem will come. Next year we'll be having grade 11, and the grade 10s will come. If this is not addressed at the moment, it is a problem that we are creating. I know the CBE, the main purpose was to have, the East African community harmonization curriculum. But even the other, like Rwanda, had it before us.
Yeah.
It is a failed, system. Something has to seriously be done to correct this.
However, Daktari, we have a bunch of unemployed teachers out there. A very big number. Yet we are not absorbing them.
True.
And we have a system that now requires us to have smaller classes. That is smaller number of students per class. And therefore we need even more teachers. So what Parliament should do is to appropriate resources enough to absorb, first of all, every teacher who has been trained and is out there. And we have so many from TTCs,
True.
from diploma colleges, from universities. There are so many out there. We need to absorb all of them into the system. Then we can be able to talk about deficits from then on and see which areas we need to train more. What I see now is that the mode of employment of teachers is defective, and we are unfortunately we are seeing politicians dishing out letters of employment out there, rather than a structured employment by the Teacher Service Commission. That is something that we will need to fix. We also need to need to remove politics from everything. Yeah, we have now. If a politician is determining who gets employed by the Teacher Service Commission, where are we headed?
You know, you talk about smaller classes, but remember, smaller classes means more infrastructure,
Exactly.
and we have zero infrastructure.
Exactly, infrastructure.
We talk about teachers, and in the hundreds of thousands who are out there who have not been employed. But remember, even those teachers we're talking about need to be retooled. So the government needs to do what? To invest into that sector and ensure that every teacher that is out there, even if they will be employed, because they say old out, fast in, right? They need to be retooled, but you're not doing that. In hindsight, immediate solutions for a long-term purpose, what must we all do? And that's a question for all of you, because we can sit, we can talk, we can complain, but what must be done today to fix the entire curriculum? Because look at it this way, we have 10 years of a curriculum that exists, because if you talk from ECDE to senior school right now, these are the majority in our education system today as we speak.
True.
Are we going to leave it just like that? What must we do today?
For me, my opinion is that a serious discourse must, let us not assume that things are well. Those sideshow statements of 97% transition are not, translating to facts. We have a problem, and everybody need to swallow his or her pride. And we come together and say, yes, there's something that is wrong in the education system, and we need to come, sit down and talk about it as a matter of urgency. Because now the publishers are saying that there's some amount, I think it's 5-point-something billion that has not been given to them.
5.6.
5.6. And this money, in their view, was meant to be given, I think, the day before yesterday. They are still withholding the books. And I want you to know that the books are there with the publishers. But they're saying, unless this is done, must we allow another generation to suffer because of something that you can easily sit down and solve?
Oof. I'm sorry that we have to end this conversation on a note whereby it leaves us wondering what's going to happen tomorrow if we're still dealing with inherent issues like that. But there's a lot of work to do, and we all have to click in, that's for sure. But we won't deliver like this, that's for sure. Dr. Edward Obuya is an educational expert, joined today by Professor Owen Gumi, Dean of School of Education, Arts and Science at ZTech University. Thank you both for being here. There's a lot of work to be done, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everybody who tuned into the Situation Room this Tuesday. Thank you for being here this morning. Our conversations continue tomorrow, God willing. Have a good rest of the day and enjoy your listening on Spice FM. It's 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.